Alright, so I said I'd give this. Tried it once already, made a hames of it, so this is my second time recording it. But I said I'd record it properly rather than holding my phone up in front of the fucking computer. So we're just gonna take through kind of taking across Sprite sheet, dividing it up, using it in an animator, and then just some of the bits and pieces for the animator, just like some fundamental shit, just to kind of like switch in between animation clips, just so because that's just useful stuff that you're going to be needing. So they had just started up a new Unity project for the second time. Um, but the only thing I've taken across this spreadsheet of Mega Man, and so I'm just going to go from the very beginning rather than jumping in and bits and pieces where people are getting stuck. So I said I just do the whole thing from start to finish. So I've just taken in this. The one thing you have to make sure is that it is a PNG, because PNG have alpha values, so it's able to make the background see through. It makes it a hell of a lot easier. You can bring it into Photoshop, and if you find a bunch of sprite sheets that you really like and it's not a PNG, you can bring it into Photoshop and get rid of the backgrounds and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to be doing any of that. I'm just going to be taking one from the internet that's ready to use. So take it across. The first thing you're going to have to do is to change the texture type, and I'm going to change that to a Sprite 2D and UI. Next thing we're going to do is change the sprite mode from single to multiple, and I'm going to click apply, and then I'm going to open the sprite editor. Now, I couldn't figure out, I had a problem with this if you're using more than one monitor. Sometimes this thing, I couldn't figure out where it was going, but it was just appearing. I thought there was something wrong, but it was just appearing on a second monitor. Stupid, but so we're going to click slice. I'm going to click automatic, make sure automatic is there, and then hit slice down here. And what that's going to do is just chop this up into little, you can kind of see little white boxes around each of the sprites, and that means that it's worked. You can kind of see them, but it's just cut these up into individual pieces. And I'm just going to click apply, and we can just X out of that then. So if I take my sprite sheet now, it's got this little arrow on the side here, and that's divided all of these sprites up into their individual pieces. So first thing we're going to do then to start bringing this into our scene itself is I'm going to create a plane, which is technically a 3D object, even though it really is a 2D object, and I'm just going to rotate that by 90 degrees on the Z-axis. So one side is transparent, this is the other side, so this is the side that we're going to be interested in. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a sprite renderer onto this. Oh, no, we'll do this another way. Sorry, get rid of that. We're going to just go for a sprite map. It's easier. So we've got a sprite. This is easier. I should have done it this way first. New sprite. You can't see it because it doesn't have anything rendering on it. So we're just going to choose one of these to be its default sprite. So I'm just going to choose the first one here because that's the nice one. And I'm just going to throw this. I'm going to drag it from. Sorry, I'm going to drag it from here directly up into here. And there you can see it. He's rendering on both sides, so that's the nice thing about a sprite map. So the next thing we're going to do is get onto this animating this. So I'm going to choose my sprite, and first thing I'm going to do is just add an animator onto this, and then we're going to have to create a controller, an animator controller for this, which is animator controller. I'm just going to call that, you can call that whatever you want, Mega Man. And I'm just going to click on my sprite and just drag and drop this in here. So the first thing you want to do is create an idle state, because that's going to be the kind of the default animation that's going to be running if nothing else is running. So I'm just going to right click, create an animation. And now I'm just going to call this idle, but in a game you'd want to be calling this like what your character is, so it'd be Mega Man idle it makes it a lot easier. Or you can call it idle, but you don't want 30 characters with all the same animation names. It just starts to get confusing. So next, created my idle animation, and I'm going to click on my fuck. I'm gonna click on my animator up here, which is just going to open the animator window. If you don't have that, it's just in window up here, and you just click animator and that'll bring it up. And I'm going to select my sprite. So the animator window is like your scene or your game window. It's only going to show up what's up, what you have collected, what you have clicked on your hierarchy. So if I click my sprite, you can see, because it has an animator controller, it's got these kind of default states in it. So I'm not going to go into, I won't go into a huge amount of detail. But so this is the entry state. When the game starts, it's going to be going from this into the default state. So if I drag in my idle animation here, it's going to, orange is your default state. So we'll just worry about that for the moment. So with my idle, with my sprite selected, I'm just going to go into the animation. So this is the animation. This is going to be the individual animations that are on whatever object you've selected. So I'm just going to drag this up here just to make it a little bit easier, so that I can take my idle animation. So my idle animation, I think, is only 3. Is it only 3? I think that's a jump. Or that's a walk and a run. So yeah, it is actually only 3. So I'm just going to select the 3 of these and drag and drop these into the animation. Now they're going to put them very close together, so you can kind of do this 2 ways. I'm just going to grab these and just kind of spread them out a little bit, so that when I press play, it'll be a lot longer of an animation. So now that I have a default state idle, so if I hit play, actually I'm just going to make sure my camera's actually looking at this lad, and as long as he's somewhere in frame, it should be alright. Yeah, so I'm just going to click play. So because he has a default animation, he should go into this now. Oh, sorry. One very important part is that you have to make sure that these animations don't loop automatically. So with the animation selected there, I have the idle animation selected there. I'm just going to select loop time so that it loops. You want it to play more than once, basically. So it's still very quick. It's very fast. So so what you can do is you can either go in here and start mucking around with these and lengthening these out and playing it around with it this way, and I'll show this one. You can do it that way, and that's probably the proper way you should do it. Yeah, so there's your default animation. That's probably the best way of doing it, really. There is another way, but this is probably the best way of doing it. So next, if you want, so you're obviously going to want more than one animation on your sprite. So I'm just going to add a second one onto it. So next one, we're going to add maybe a walk. I'll add a walk animation. So I'm just going to right click, add a new animation, and this is going to be walk. Invigorating stuff. So first I'm going to drag and drop this in, and you're going to notice that this is a grey animator, because listen, if we left it like that, there's no way, there's no arrows, there's no transitions going into this, so you'd never actually reach it. So we need to set up a couple of transitions and then also a couple of parameters that's going to dictate whether we go into from the walk into the from the idle into the walk animation. That parameter is going to be a float speed. So I won't get into the scripting in this, but I'm just going to show you how to do it in the animator, and you can mess around with it. So first thing, I'm just going to make sure my parameters. So my microphone died when I had done this, so I'm just trying to keep up here now. So I'm clicking on float here just to add that as a parameter, and just call it whatever it is, so it's speed. Next I'm going to be adding transitions from idle into the walk animation, so that I'm able to get into it. So it's moving from idle into walk, and then from walk back into idle.
So I can't remember exactly which way I'd done this, but I can't remember exactly what I was explaining here, but I'm sure it was very interesting. Um, so I'm selecting the first transition from idle into walk. Um, I can't remember why I was talking so long here, but basically what I'm going to do is, so I'm talking about the exit time. So if an animation has an exit time, it'll only exit the animation when it reaches the end of the animation. And I'm just saying that you wouldn't want this for an idle animation going into a walk animation, so that as soon as you hit down on your key or your controller, you want it to move straight from an idle into the walk. You don't want the idle animation to finish playing. You might want an exit time for stuff like an attack, because an attack you don't want to exit out of halfway through. You want the attack to play the full way. So for this one, I'm turning off the exit time, and then the same from the walk. As soon as you let go of that button, you want to be going from the walk directly into the idle. You don't want to keep moving forward. So because I don't have an exit time now, I need to end some sort of conditions where I'm going to move from the idle into the walk. The first one, so the condition is going to be speed. So that when the speed is greater than 0. 0.1, I'm going to be putting that as 0. 0.1. You don't want it greater than 0, because it can be a little bit messy. So if it's greater than 0, we're going to be doing the same, well, the opposite then for the other way round. We're going to be going less than 0. 0.1 when speed is less than 0. 0.1. So, uh, what else do I do here now? Um, I can't remember what I'm banging on about here. um, I really can't. I might remember, but the microphone. Sorry, the microphone keeps cutting out. I'm gonna have to charge these. So, oh yeah, I haven't actually set up the walk animation, so I'm just taking you through there. If you look up the top there, I've selected the sprite and I've changed it on the animation from the idle to walk, and now I'm looking for those sprites that I'm going to be using for the walk animation, but it's actually a run animation. So I'm just taking all of those sprites same way I did it for the idle, and I'm going to drag these into the animator, and same thing happens. They're very mashed up and very going to be running through that animation very quickly. So I'm going to be showing the second way of quickly, rather than individually going through and spreading each of these clips. Each of those dots is like one of those pictures from the sprite. So I'm going to be doing it in the animator this time, and just telling the animation to run slower. So speed of 1 is the default speed, so you can kind of muck around with this and get a speed that you like. So first we're going to try, and I can already tell you now, 0. 0.1 is too small, it's too slow, it's 1/10 of the animation speed. But this is very much, you just give it a shot, see how it looks in game, and then come back out and just tweak these values. So should be going into this now, and I think the rest of the video is just kind of hit and play and moving the stuff around so you're able to see it better and moving, and that's about it. Alright, so I'll leave this to play off, and any hassle, give us a bell. Alright, look.